Welcome to my site. This is my ePortfolio site. It's called my personal library. I am an English major and I love books. So, this is my About Me page, open straight up. Talks about how I um, got to my English degree path, my plans moving forward, how I was just accepted into grad school, and what my overall goals are with my English degree. Um, and then next, we just have my little resume, things I've done throughout the years, whether it be through work or school, things of that sort. But I think the main focus here is how I've learned these learning outcomes provided through the English program. Um, so I really want to focus on my symposium project because I think that that really shows my growth the most of how I've learned all of these learning outcomes. And so I took a short story that I wrote my freshman year at UNE, and I'd never written anything before um, publicly for people to read and critique. And so it was super nerve-wracking. And over the years, I've minored in writing as well as having a major in English, and I've learned so much. And I just wanted to show my growth as an English student and a writer. So this is my very, very first step of my original project. We had to write, like, I think it was 2 pages worth of stuff that you can definitely read and look through when you get to my site for sure. Um, at the time, I was so super proud of it, and looking back at it now is it's not great. Definitely good for someone who's never done it before, but not great. I also have my artist book YouTube link that you can watch, and it kind of describes my original artist book a little bit more. Um, but really, I want to dive into these learning outcomes. So again, I have the archival review and I have the full short story of the original piece on my page that you guys can read at your free will. If you desire, I think it's the best way to show how I've grown as an English student. But I think that if I knew then section really shows how I'm able to take the English learning outcomes and apply them to the writing side of my life and like what I want to do. And so I think this really shows that I can read text closely and think critically, because this is my own work that I am combing through with a fine-tooth comb, figuring out what I want to keep, what's good, what's bad writing, all that kind of stuff. And I talk first about going through it with an editor's eye and, taking out all of those grammatical errors. And then I go in with a writer's eye and really figure out my character arc, my storyline, my plot, all of those things that make a short story a short story. And so I think that this section alone, if you dive a little deeper, you can read into my critiques that I've made for myself, and it will definitely show that I can read text closely 100% and be able to analyze and critique them. And so then after that, I went into my revision process. So this is my first draft I did before I did some serious source digging. And as you can see, I use italics up here for flashbacks and things of that such, which I've learned through the great author Mary Gateskill isn't necessary for flashbacks. I did a lot of my I used a lot of my sources through Mary Gateskill and her writing. I think she's an amazing author. She's my new favorite author at the moment. The way that she writes, again, I think shows how I've been able to read her text closely, analyze, critique them, and then use that comprehensive understanding of literature and apply that to my writing. And so you'll see in my part 2, I don't have any more italics. It's straight cutthroat to the point. My flashbacks are still in there. However, I don't break up the text and disrupt the reader's train of thought while they're reading with the italics anymore. That's no longer my goal. So I think Mary Gateskill definitely helped. And of course, conducting a little more research on what should be included in character development and things of that sort through Bird by Bird and writing fiction. Those were also my other sources that I've used. And I think too that when it comes to communicating effectively, I've definitely learned how to communicate effectively to an audience through my speech class, which you can find right here. I have a final speech, which has a bunch of YouTube links, my advice, all of this stuff, that you can see my public speaking tools in that, for an example of like how to communicate effectively. But I also think I've learned how to communicate effectively through my story to my readers. And I think that that's an important piece that isn't necessarily always talked about. But I do think that it connects the English and the writing world together. And so I would say that I have learned how to communicate effectively. And if a reader understands the point of my story, in my opinion, that's effective communication. So I will leave that up to anyone willing to read my story and test if that statement is true or not. Finally, I think conducting research is talked a little bit more in my framing statement of my project, which again, you guys are more than welcome to click this YouTube video and listen to me talk for 5 minutes about the process and how I got there. However, too, I think that research in one of my other English classes shows my ability to conduct research in the literary and cultural studies. This was English 201. It was Who and What is an American. I think that this final essay I wrote shows more on my ability to research using the library tools. Also, I think too in even English 278, there are a bunch of things I have clicked. Oh, English 300 for sure. I don't know if I have finals in here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. This 100% shows that I've been able to conduct research, interviews, all things of that sort. This paper is probably one of my proudest papers I've ever written at UNE, and I was able to write it while I was actually in Morocco. So that made the experience 10 times greater than what I could have ever expected out of myself. So I think that all of these more English related fields definitely show my research conduction. Again, I highly recommend checking out my paper for English 300, Topics of Writing Sans Frontiers, and my other English 300. I think that also shows my ability to conduct research much better than my final project for my capstone. But with all of that being said, I still think that this hits the nail on the head for the first 3 learning outcomes of the English program, and I'm proud of what I've created, and I hope that you guys enjoyed not only my little walkthrough of my ePortfolio, but also seeing examples of my work and how that demonstrates the learning outcomes. So feel free to take a deep dive, test my theories of if I have or have not learned the outcomes. I personally think I have. And if you're looking for a little fun activity, I would check out my reading history. Check out Storygraph if you like reading books. It's a great way to track what you read. I feel like I just did a little plug, but for certain, I think that I can confidently say I'm graduating with tools that I did not have coming into college through the English program. So yeah, thanks for listening, and please enjoy my portfolio site. I will link it down in the description box of this YouTube video.